So, welcome to this separation. It was advertised as separation anxiety, right? But um, I, when I'm describing separation anxiety, where it's actually not, I call it separation issues because separation anxiety is just one of the separation issues which we're going to get into in part two. So, just going to quickly run through what are going to be the subjects and what we're going to be talking about. What I'm doing in this hour, if it's an hour, I'm hoping I don't run over too much, but what I'm going to do within this hour is I'm going to try to give you a blueprint of how we fix separation anxiety. It's something that myself and Kim is my partner, and she's been working in the business for 9 years. So we've both been doing this together, and it's something that I feel that has been an expert subject of causal nature of separation anxiety because we've dealt with a lot of it. And if you go online and you're going to, yeah, I'm going to let you do that. You're going to just admit people are still coming in. People are still joining too. So it's been something. If you go online and you look at our like reviews on our website and on Google and stuff, you'll see a lot of people talking about us doing.
You muted.
You've muted me.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I'm back. Sorry, there you go. Yeah, don't mute me as well, Kim. Right. Okay, so if you want to just go through the reds for me, so save you having to give me the mic back over. So the things that we're going to be covering in hey, it's my client from today. You're right in the middle. So the things we're going to be going through today in the separation issues workshop is where it comes from. Scroll, okay. Where it comes from, give it a second. Just let me go through this. So where it comes from, I did want to put the notes up on screen, but I've not been able to because I haven't figured that out. But I'm only just getting savvy with Zoom. It's the future of being able to reach more people, like I said. So we're going to be going through where it comes from, okay, and that's not even that scientifically proven where it comes from. It's a bit of a guesswork for separation issues. Types of separation issues, what they are, the three main types, and then I'm going to be going into how we fix it. Okay. So I'm going to be making sure that we have like a bit of a blueprint of how you fix this. And then following that, there's going to be the potential for you guys to do like a month support if you are dealing with separation issues right now, where you actually are going to practice things each week. And then we're actually going to do that. Our normal price for doing support, ongoing things, is about £150, but we're going to actually do this one for £33. So it's not going to be a sale. I'm going to give everybody the information in this. I'm not like that. I'm not business headed enough to be like that. But so I'm going to give you all the blueprints of how you fix separation issues. But what I'm going to do is there's going to be the opportunity for you guys to actually do a weekly Zoom at a very, very low price over a month. And each month we will be just going over, sorry, each week of the month we'll be going over like a fresh subject, which is going to be part of the blueprint to try and help separation issues. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to go through. If I'm looking a little bit to the left and not the camera directly, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So apologies for that. But we're going to go through where it comes from. Okay. So number one, so if you guys are going to be making notes, this is something you probably want to make notes of where it comes from. And it doesn't massively matter. What matters most is actually how you fix it, right? So a strong attachment to the owner is number one. That's going to be the first. Okay. And then we call these dogs Velcro dogs, where they get so much independency from the owner and they have such a strong relationship with them that they heavily rely with them on for comfort. And anytime that they are alone, it makes them feel unsafe and it feels unfamiliar to them emotionally. Okay. Sudden changes in routines, another way that it can come. So if you, for instance, are at home all the time with the dog, this happened a lot in COVID. We've seen a lot of separation anxiety issues going on in COVID. And what happened was everybody was at home with the dog, and then it all of a sudden become the case where they had to go back to work, and that really upset the dog because the dog wasn't used to it. Something else that can really disrupt the dog is when you're moving house, or if you have changes in the household where somebody will actually leave the house and there's just one person left there, and it changes their routine because, as we know with dogs, they love predictability and they love to live a life where they actually know what's going on and they've got some type of routine. This is one of the reasons, slightly off subject here, why I don't give my dogs a routine, is because I like them to be comfortable with not having, a lot of sort of, your mum's just joined and she's late. Your mum is always late. Kim's mum, she's late, right? So she's late. She's late for a Zoom. Come on, she didn't even have to drive here. Okay, so sudden changes in routine. So yeah, that's one of the things. Side note is I do with my dogs is I like to throw them off by not giving them a solid routine. And what I find with this does help with separation issues because they don't know whether they're coming or going. Okay, some things are routine. The training is routine with them, but I don't like to, and I'm not saying for people to do that because people have their own routines and do what they do with the dog, but it's something that I've found strengthens my dogs long term. Okay. So lack of independence in training, which is a subject that we're going to cover, which is about teaching the dog to actually be separate and being okay with being separate. I personally myself have done a lot of studying into separation issues. And one of the people I reached out to and did a little bit of research with was a guy called Chad Mackin, who is a very old school 90s dog trainer in America, but he's evolved himself immensely over the years. And one of the things he said to me that stuck with me, he said, if your dog is not okay being bored and your dog is not okay just being there with you and standing in the middle of a street and it can't just lie down and chill, then you're never going to have a dog that's going to be good and you're never going to be able to have that dog with any separation issues. One of the first things he always looks for is a dog okay being bored. And that is such a big, big thing with dogs. Lack of independency in training will have a dog that's not so okay with being bored. Number 4, past trauma and abandonment. So sometimes if you've had a dog that's been in a shelter or they've been abandoned, that can cause separation issues where they'll feel somebody's left them and they have never seen them again. So they start to relate that to everybody they see. It's not that common, but it is definitely something that can contribute to it. Number 5, boredom and excess energy. So if the dog is not being exercised enough and they've got a lack of stimulation, you can get a dog that becomes bored, a little bit stressed and destructive because it's not able to vent its energy. And you'll find that you'll find some dogs that will start getting an OCD syndrome behavior where they'll just keep repeating the same behavior and barking at the door, or your Jack Russell is jumping at the window all day, stuff like that. Genetic and personality factors is definitely a big one and something that we see a lot of. You get this a lot in collies, Labradors, and my very typical ones where I see a lot of separation anxiety are of 3 dogs: Cockapoos. Some of you might be nodding right now. I think Tracy and Colin are nodding right now. Cockapoos. Dachshunds. Oh my God. I get so many separation issues of Dachshunds. Working Spaniels, etc. You'll get it with them also, but I see it a lot in sight hounds. So I think one of the first real separation anxiety cases I did was for a lady that's watching now, Kim's mum. That's how we met, through this dog, Rosie, and she'd had 3 couches, and Corin had just finished paying for the 3rd couch, and she went and had that one as well. So we would do
2 kitchen doors.
Oh, and 2 kitchen doors, yeah. So she is going to be under one of the categories that we're going to talk about next, which is types of separation issues. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. Triggered associations. So that also comes into one of the fixes, which is when they have, like, say, you picking up your keys, putting your shoes on, grabbing a bag, etc. That alone can cause separation issues where the dog just sees a routine of you leaving the house and it causes a bit of dread. And the anxiety of that can just push separation anxiety in itself, separation issues. Okay. So let's go down to types of separation issues. Right. Let's get into the thick of it. And this, for everybody out there that's going to be a little bit like, has my dog got this one or that one? They can morph into each other a little bit. Okay. So the 2 main ones that you see the most of, and Rosie Bear, the lurcher, didn't have one of the 2 main ones. She had the 3rd one. First one is isolation distress. Okay. Isolation distress is basically when the dog doesn't want to be left alone. So if you have to have somebody come and sit with your dog for the night, if you want to go out for a meal, and the dog's cool with that, then that is isolation distress. It's not connected to a specific person. It's connected more to the fact that they don't want to be isolated on their own. Exactly what it says on the tin, isolation distress. And like I said, it can morph. Separation anxiety is the word that everybody throws around. Okay, so anybody who's dealing with any separation issues generally just calls it separation anxiety. So what separation anxiety is, it's specifically connected to a person, and it can be multiple people. Some of the people that are watching here, which is Tracy and Colin, they've seen that from a cockapoo. I'm going to use you as a reference, guys, if you don't mind, but they've used that with so they've seen that recently with a cockapoo that they rescued. Long story, but it's a bad resource guard of this dog, and it's, you know, got a bite history. They got it home, had a little bit of a rocky time for the first couple of days. They've had my support throughout the whole time. And what happened was the dog attached itself to one of them. And then what would happen is when Colin went to work and the dog was left home with Tracy, it started to get a bit weird because it was a resource guarder. And then it would just sit at the bottom of the stairs and it'd be waiting for Colin to come back home. But then Tracy was able to establish the relationship with the dog, and now it's doing the same thing with her. And what you'll sometimes find will happen with a dog like that over time is, and this is one of the ways of identifying it, they'll grow a thing called line of sight separation anxiety, right? And that's like sort of one of the subcategories of separation anxiety. And that is where if one person stands outside a shop, and you may have experienced this already, and the other person goes in, they cry until the other person comes back out. And that will often also happen if, regardless of who the person is. So it's very much connected to a person. For me, when I'm dealing with stuff like that, I would generally just get the dog and I'll bring them back in and ask them to stay with me in the room or something. And I'll try and maybe distract them, give them a chew. But what I won't let them do is just whimper and whine the other side of the door. I'm home with that dog. Okay, so they're the two main ones. Isolation distress is they don't want to be on their own. They're happy with anybody being with them. And separation anxiety is they're missing the person that's gone. It's connected to a person or several people. Okay, so third one, which is quite a stressful one for dogs, is a thing called containment phobia. Now, so make sure you make a note of these three, just so you know, and you know what you're playing with. Containment phobia, again, it's what it says on the tin. This is where the dog doesn't want to be contained. And I'll reference Corinne, who is in this Zoom, to her dog, Rosie. So the first thing that we did when we went in with Rosie was we worked on leadership and we worked on exercise, because I think they're two of the core principles of helping separation anxiety, is that the dog knows that you're a leader and you've got good control, and then they're well exercised and they're going on big adventures, etc. This is going to come to how we fix it. That'll be the first part. So we addressed that, but I think it was by accident. I think Corin by accident kind of just left the house open one day.
And she was contained in the kitchen.
She was, well, you'll know about it because you were there at the time, weren't you?
So she was contained in the kitchen. So she was put in the kitchen with a dog bed, and every single, is it Actimel? I always get it confused with the milk, but it was one of the
Actimel, isn't it?
Yeah, the
Actimel
plugins, and she had a collar on, she had a vest on. But she was contained in the kitchen because in the previous home she'd ate 3 couches.
Yeah, so it was all the gadgets in the world you could get for a dog that you can buy from like Pets at Home, etc. It wasn't working, and she was chewing through the door. And then I think Corin by accident one day left the door open and was like, "Oh, she's just getting on the couch and she's not doing anything anymore." And she's like, "Well, you fixed that." And I didn't actually fix it. I've done some things to fix it, but I didn't directly fix that dog. It was fixed on accident. And then that's when we looked into it more. And I was buying different books and studying, etc. You're talking, God, 11 years ago, because this is when the company started. Corin was one of my first, it's probably within my first 5 cases that I took on it with the company, Paws and Nature. I'd done it previously for quite a number of years before I started Paws and Nature as a job, but I wasn't as knowledgeable, etc. So it just opened up a new sort of area of education in separation issues, and that was, what is containment phobia and what's it all about and why is it and what's the whole principle behind it. And for me, when you get a dog that's got containment phobia, it's not normally a dog that is very, very high in drive. And I find the very high in prey drive when I've experienced this. And you do see it more containment phobia with the likes of lurchers and greyhounds, etc. They're not liking that containment and get really frustrated. And sometimes it can be because, they're so high in drive that you've got a dog that just wants to be out and going to do different, maybe hunting and going out on walks, etc. So you find that a little bit, and that's why I think that putting the exercise in is really important. Case study. So I studied also under a lady called Sarah Dixon. I did her courses under Consider the Dog, which is like an online training course for us in the industry. And Sarah Dixon is one of the leading experts in the US on separation anxiety and separation issues. One of the things I found really interesting and comforting when I did her courses is there wasn't much that she taught me. So it gave me confidence in what I do. Yeah, somebody who wants to be admitted there, Kim. So, but she did teach me some absolutely valuable things. And within her case studies, she gave loads of case studies in her courses, very, very big course. And she was saying that she'd gone to a apartment in like Chicago or wherever she lives. And their dog was, destroying doors and ripping the carpet up, etc. And I think that might have been a lurcher as well. I'm sure it was. But it would really get frustrated in the flat. But one day she accidentally left the door open of her apartment and the dog got out. And the dog was going in the lift and chilling with the people from around the apartment block. And then just going and seeing didn't want to leave. It had the chance to go onto the street, but it didn't. It just chilled in the apartment block. And people come back home and they were like, "Oh yeah, we got on the lift of our beagle and just standing there in the lift, just looking at us, panting away." And that was I thought a really funny and real valuable case. That dog, its containment was the whole apartment, where Rosie's containment wasn't. Rosie's containment was more just the kitchen, and she basically just wanted to go and get on the couch. Okay, so I've hovered on that one for a little bit, but I just think it's an interesting one. And if you guys are sitting there going, well, the dog is attached to me, but it doesn't like being left alone. And if you leave someone with it, they do morph into each other a little bit. I've even seen dogs that have had all three of them, and you could actually argue that all three of them separation issues were present within the dog and within its behavior. Okay. What are we like for time? We're quite good, to be fair, on time, but we'll deep dive if we need to. And I do want to have a little bit of a Q&A. I just don't know how we're going to do it because you haven't used that person, by the way. You haven't. I don't know how we do the Q&A because it's first time on Zoom. We'll just do our best, okay? Kim's going to work that out. She's going to work that out between now and So, how do we fix it? Right. So have a pen and paper for this. We've already covered the first one, which I think is the most primary important one, because if the dog's just bored, right, that's your best place to be. So if I've got a dog that's got separation issues and I start taking them for big adventures and big migrational walks and it goes brilliant, and it's the less mental stress on the dog because it's just related to boredom. So using exercise and calm exercise and challenging exercise to make sure that they get that good fulfillment is the first core principle of doing this. Now, does that mean taking your dog to a big field and throwing a ball for them? No, it doesn't. People think that that's the fastest way to exercise a dog, but if you want to get past this problem, for me personally, you have to invest some time and you have to try and plan this a little bit. So if you're going to start leaving your dog, etc., this would be my first tip. Don't start this when you're going to work. So if you're going to start bringing this system in place, I would do this when you've got maybe the weekend off. So you can just do a little bit of a trial and walk the dog, make sure the dog's had the right exercise, and then you're maybe not leaving it and going to work. Okay. So what we mean when we're talking about this type of exercise is if I was doing it with my dog, and I did do this previously with Bruce and Lottie, making sure that they were getting the right fulfillment. to help with any separation issues. I would take them on a nature walk that was very scent heavy, and I'd make sure it was migrational in the sense of I wouldn't go to, if any of you guys are Ellesmere Port Way, there's a place called Stanley Woods there, and it's very small, and you do laps of it. Or you can go to the park and do laps of the park. That for me wouldn't cut it. I want it to be more like a forest where you're migrating through the forest. There's loads of different smells. And I also would like to try and make it so it's a bit of a challenge for the dog. So if my dog was to go through, like, if I'm to go through a kissing gate that I know the dog can get through, a different side, I'll normally go through it, shut it so the dog can't, and he has to work out how to get through. If there's any little rivers or any little jumps, I would just make sure that I'm jumping over them and the dog can jump over the river with me, or let the dog naturally just go and do it itself. But I would want the exercise to be mentally challenging, but mentally challenging in a very natural way. Okay. Chasing squirrels and stuff like that on the walk, it's going to be unavoidable. So as long as the dog's not wildly high prey drive and it's just going to do that the whole time, right? I would maybe change the walk if that was going to be the case. So maybe going somewhere where there's, like a beach that's got lots of smells and lots of driftwood and different stuff on it there. But I want the walk to be for the dog very, very much sniffing, migrating, a little bit of chasing squirrels if they need to, but I want them to stop and smell the flowers. That's what I want them to do. Because I want fulfillment, and I want the fulfillment to be very, very, very much like a very natural way of fulfilling them. So, point one, migration style exercise. And if you can, the best way to do this is to do it almost like a little bit of a wolf pack, where you would have good lead control on the dog. You would walk them and make sure that they've got good lead control, and you're walking them to a wooded area. You'd let them off lead, 10 minutes there, half an hour off lead, or 40 minutes, and then 10 minutes walk back where you're controlling on the lead again. Okay. So that's the first core principle of it. You want to make sure that they're sniffing freely, exploring different textures and scents, and they move at a natural, unhurried pace. Okay. This type of exercise supports mental enrichment and emotional regulation, and that'll help your dog to settle more at home. Okay. It's important to note the high energy activities. I'm just going through my notes here. Like constant ball throwing or repetitive toy play can sometimes increase arousal levels, leaving dogs feeling more wired rather than relaxed. And that's a really important part of it. Okay. So if you do a big play routine just before you leave your dog and then leave the house, the dog's like, boom, 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 I'm wired, I'm driven, I'm ready to, take stuff on. And then you're leaving me. It's almost like winding them up and then, playing a prank on your mate, your babysitter's kids, and you give them Smarties and Cocoa Lights. And they come into this child that's climbing the walls. Okay, which we don't do all promote, by the way. Okay, so moving on to the next little part. A side note to this as well, is what I feel is really important is practicing leadership. If you've got a dog, we went to a lady who's on here now, Ren. I went to her house this morning, and the dogs, it's two puppies, a 6-month-old puppy and like a 4-month-old puppy around them ages, and one of them is just literally just grabbing hold of the other one's throat and pulling it round, and it just looks really horrid when they're doing it, and it's quite normal for dogs of them ages. It's quite normal behaviour. But what the first thing I did when I went into the house was and one of them was incessantly barking. It was a very piercing bark as well. But the first thing I did when I went into the house, I said to them, I'm twitching here because we've got no way of controlling these dogs. Get collars on them and get leads on them and just leave the leads on the floor so we can control them. Very quickly within the session, I had control of the dogs, and the dogs weren't really interacting. If I said no, they were listening to no. That's what I mean by leadership. It's just a dog that listens to what you're saying. And we are 100% all for us saying this morning to Ren that it's old school ways that I'm doing this. I'm just coming in like a dog whisperer style and just actually controlling the dogs, because there's a place for that. It needs to be within the training, but primarily I'm going to be food reward based. I'm going to make sure that I'm, working very much of a dog where it's very much positive only training. Okay. But we also have to be open to all the quadrants of training. And that's what I say there. When you're leading a dog and when you're living with a dog and making sure that they're having a really fulfilled life, part of a fulfilled life for a dog, for me, is to make sure that they have a leader and make sure that they have somebody who controls stuff. Okay. Because if you don't, it just makes things so much harder. I'm going to say to my dogs, Stop that. And they stop what they're doing. Behind me right now, I've got a Romanian street dog and a Jack Russell that are both in crates because they're chilling and they've done the exercise that they need to do for the day. And they're just chilling before they have, but they've been fed and now they're chilling. There's no noise out of them. This is what I'm talking about, is that we've got solid leadership, because if you don't have that, it makes it hard. The dog goes, I haven't got direction. I don't understand what I'm doing. They don't understand what a no is when you need it, because you do need a no. Okay. So moving on, Kim, now to the next little bit. Okay. So the next part of it, so they're kind of the first two core principles for me, is correct exercise and correct exercise and presenting yourself as a leader to the dog. Like I said, we probably are going to be jumping on. Well, Kim's going to send you the information out after. I've been super lucky that Kim's looked after all of the she's looked after all of the admin for this and helped this to become a thing tonight. So she's going to be sending information out of us doing a 4-week plan where you'll get support.
Yeah, it's
and
more support.
Yeah, it's going to be a Zoom meeting like this, and I'm going to give you tasks to do to get the dogs to the next stage, and we'll do them stage by stage. Okay. And week one will be that. Week one will be leadership and exercise and deep diving and like question and answers and jumping into that. Okay. So the next part, number 3, is teaching to self-soothe and emotional regulation. And this for me is super important. And it's back to what I said when me and Chad had conversations over in the US. And that was, if your dog's not okay being bored, okay, it's going to be almost impossible to stop any separation issues. They've got to be okay to be bored. Okay. And what does that mean? It means that if you're sitting in a restaurant or going to a cafe or something like that, that the dog can just sit under the table and be chilled. So there's a couple of ways that we do this. There's 2 main ways that we would teach how to self-soothe. I'm going to go through them and I'm going to give you details so you know how to go away and do this straight away, because this for me is one of the biggest ones. I'm currently doing a very, very in-depth 2-week rehabilitation program with a content creator from up in Wallasey. She does DIY content creation and stuff on socials. And she's got a cockapoo who is got very, very bad separation anxiety, and it's separation anxiety to her. She cannot leave the dog more than 2 foot, and the dog will just start screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming. She's like, I can't go to the gym. I just can't do anything. The dog is screaming. There you go. Cheryl's shaking her head. Yeah, I feel you, right? So she can't move. And one of the first steps that we did was just teach the dog to regulate. Let's just teach the dog to be okay, not doing anything. Okay. How do we do this? I'm going to give you an in-depth overlook on it. That's not in-depth overlook. That's contradiction in terms. I'm going to give you the details, the instructions of how to do it. So I make sure they're exercised. I get a dog, pretend I've got a dog. I get the dog. I make sure they're exercised. I make sure they're fed. I make sure I'm fed, because I don't want food for this exercise. I don't want food. They don't want food. They're fed, they're exercised, the toilets, they've done all the things that they need to do. Okay. And then what I do is I'll pull slip leads are the best for this, but you can also do this on a harness. Okay. But slip leads are the best because if the dog tries some maneuver, it increases a little bit of pressure and teaches the dog to lean back into the pressure. A dog that's back tied will generally, and we did this morning with Ren, we back tied one of the dogs for something separate, but we just back tied it straight away and it just yielded to it on a flat collar. So it can be done with a harness or flat collar. The slip leads are probably the best for this, but if people aren't happy using slip leads, which some people aren't, that's fine. You can do it on something else. So what I do is I back tie the dog. Side note before we get into this, I will sometimes precurse this exercise by getting my dog on the couch every single night. So let's just jump away from the exercise for a second. Let's digress a second. I will get a fleece blanket and I'll put 3 lavender drops on it, stick the blanket on my lap or stick it next to me. And when the dogs are at sleepiest stage, this could be first thing in the morning, it could be late at night, whatever, you'll know when your dog's at its most relaxed. And I just have the dog, Tracy and Carl, you could do this, but it might not be time yet because your dog doesn't like being touched. You have the dog next to you and you do lots of massage. I'm going to show you with my hands, slow massage techniques. We used to do a workshop with people, which is a mindful dog workshop, teaching people how to be mindful with their dogs. And I'd say to people, crouch down and give your dog affection. And everybody be like this on the dog, giving it affection. I'm like, are you giving a dog affection or are you trying to make a fire? Because there's a lot of friction going on there and there's going to be a fire going in a minute. So they'd be like this, fire it away. And I go, no, just slow it down. And I tell people to go and circular motions over the eyes, circular motions on the inside of the thigh, circular motions on the chest. And circular motions can't be that fast. Okay. This looks so wrong right now, but I'm doing it anyway, right? So circular motions have to be slow, okay? And you're going again over the eyes, inside of the thighs, etc. And just give the dog a relaxing feeling with this fleece blanket that's very specific to this exercise, with the lavender drops on it, and then you leave that for we've our kids are still here, so we've got some babysitting them, and we're like, are they going to just come running in at some point? They can take over. 6-year-old doing this, so what you're trying to do is you're saying to the dog, because obviously dogs, I can't remember the exact, it's been that long since I studied it, but I think it's 250 times stronger than a human's nose, a dog's nose. So as soon as that blanket comes out, they're like, they inhale it and they know what's there. So I want this blanket to have a very unique scent to it. And I want the scent to be very much like when this blanket comes out, all this massage happens and I feel really relaxed. Okay. Why are we doing this? You're building an association and a conditioned response in the brain that when it smells this smell, it feels relaxed. Just like when we smell something or hear a song or, see something on the TV and we go, oh my God, I'm back in the 90s just watching. I do that all the time. I'll hear a song and go, oh my God, I'm back in summer 1996. Usually Oasis. So when we're trying to build this relation and this association with the blanket, okay, what are you going to do with the blanket? You're going to use the blanket for back tying, self-soothing. You're going to use a blanket to maybe put in a crate when you're doing crate work or leaving it with the dog because it's starting to change how the brain works. Okay. So back to it. You could put this blanket out. You could have done some pre-work with this blanket, or you can do the work every night or when you're on the go. It's you can just do it alongside it. And then you put this blanket out. You put the dog on a lead. I'd normally have a lead that's maybe say 4 foot to 5 foot maximum. You have the lead normally under the leg of a couch. This is one of my typical ways of doing it. I sit on the couch because I want to be comfortable. I put the lead under the couch, it's back tied, and then I sit with the dog, and then I do a thing which is called no touch, no talk, no eye contact, and that is me completely blanking the dog. Okay, so if the dog tries to get up onto my lap, or if the dog tries to kind of do something where it's getting itself tangled up, I will untangle it with no eye contact. Okay, so I untangle it with no eye contact, or I'll move it off my lap or off something it's jumped onto. And then if you find that there's too many distractions, you need to make sure everything's clear. Okay, you sit with the dog, put the TV on. If the dog's triggered by the TV, read a book. If the dog's triggered by stuff on your phone, read a book. Okay, a book's normally a good one. For me, a phone's good because when we get our phone, guys, and we do this, and I'll do this in clients' houses, and they'll go, I'm catching up on my inquiries here. I know you're paying me for all my time, but I'm catching up on my inquiries. And they'll go, oh, okay, fine. I'll go, there's a purpose. Your dog knows this is a signal to switch off. When I'm doing this, your dog knows you're not giving it attention. So some dogs will challenge that, but most dogs will just switch off. So playing on your phone is also a good thing. Time-wise, what do we do? For me, I want to try and complete half an hour minimum for this exercise. And what I'm looking for is the ultimate goal is if the dog goes to sleep, right? But I want the dog to just be relaxed, sit down or lie down, lying down to the best part. Now, I get hit with the question a lot of the time. Well, what if my dog gets up and starts whimpering and whining and barking at me and doing stuff like that? Ignore it. But they would then have to time half an hour. For the first few, I wouldn't do that. We did this once as a trial to see how long we'd have to wait. We waited an hour and 50 minutes for a husky to settle down. And once they broke the ability to get past half an hour and the dog would just lie down and chill out, they were able to go to pubs and all sorts. I actually got videos sent like within 2 weeks from these clients with the dog just lying down completely still in a pub so it can self-soothe in a pub. But The time guide on this would be half an hour. It doesn't have to be half an hour completely asleep. However, one thing that I would say to you is I would like, I would like to this exercise to be ended when the dog is in a nice, relaxed state. I wouldn't be ending this when the dog's whimpering and whining and trying to get out of the exercise. I want it to be where the dog is really relaxed and chilled. And then when it's finished, do not have a cue to start this and do not have a cue to end it. I just back tie them and just sit there and mess on my phone or do something like that. When it's finished, I would just unclip the lead if it's on a flat collar or take it off the head and I'd say nothing to them. Wouldn't go, well done, yay, you've just self-soothed. Because I want all the focus for the dog and all the relaxation to come from being in the exercise. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. I want the dog to be relaxed in the exercise, and that's where its reinforcement must come from. Okay.
It's what we had to do with Pablo, our Jack Russell puppy. Because when we first let him into the living room,
oh my God,
he was just awful. He would like jump off the couches.
He's trying to jump on the TV unit and stand up at the TV.
Like a proper Jack Russell.
Yeah.
So we brought this technique in, back tied him to the couch. We put a bed next. We put his bed next to the couch leg, and we sat in the couch opposite him. And we basically just completely ignored him. And within about, I think it was 5 to 10 minutes, he fell asleep.
He just yielded to it, yeah. And that's because we've done a lot of cool work with him already. We've been doing all the good developmental stages with him. But we had to do that with him. And you can also put a bed out. So if you go, oh, he bloody loves his little bed, then put the bed out. That's okay. Eventually, you're going to get rid of the bed. And where does this end? You just start advancing it to being able to take them to different places and do it. And then you start experimenting with being able to walk away from them, okay, which is dead important, this part. You get up and just stand up and walk a couple of foot and come and sit back down. You just keep doing that. You just keep walking away, come back, walk away, come back, walk away, come back. And what you're doing there is you're desensitizing movement. And this is one of the ways that you can teach a dog to be separate from you, because that's one of the proper sort of issues of no, we need to do crate training stuff. That's one of the issues with it, is a dog's not okay with you moving away from them. So you could start building that. The dog goes, this is a chilled exercise. I get all my reinforcement from lying down. We've done this 10 times already. That's the point now when you just go, walk to the window, come back. Just keep walking. And the dog may get stressed, but in the end, she's going to go, I'm sick of watching you doing this. I'm just going to lie down and I'm going to get really chilled. So that's what you're doing with something like that. You're advancing it to that. So you can just back tie them in a cafe, go and get a coffee, bring it back, and the dog hasn't murmured. That's what you're going to advance to eventually. Okay. So the other part of it as well is crate training. I think crate training is a real strong part of helping this. I had a Parson Jack Russell. So I started my career out with a Parson Jack Russell who had very bad separation anxiety. And he was ripping the house to pieces, taking wallpaper off walls, digging up the carpets and all that. And when we introduced the crate with him and did it correctly, it stopped it. The crate actually stopped separation anxiety from him. He didn't have separation anxiety, he had isolation distress. He didn't want to be on his own, but it stopped it. The crate stopped the behavior straight away. So that's something that's really important.
It's also not something that does have to be permanent. If it's something that you don't want to be permanent, like your Parsons
didn't have a crate for the rest of his life. Yeah, no. He had a crate for the first year of his life, and then he never seen a crate again. And he was cool. He was absolutely cool with being left. It was a bridge, right? It can be a bridge. With a crate, similar thing. Feed the dog in there, put treats in there, give them chews in there, make sure they like going in there, leave the door open, put a cover on it. And then you eventually are going to get to the point where you shut the door. And when you shut the door, you want to make sure that you shut the door, maybe feed through the door. And then there comes a point with crate training where you do take the food away, because I then want that same back tying technique to happen in the crate where the dog realizes it just chills in the crate. Okay. Some people, if the dog's so high food driven, you may want to do it a little bit at the start, but then when it comes to shutting the door, don't use any food at all. And then we do the same thing where we'd actually have the dog right next to us in a crate and we'd watch TV and we'd ignore them. So we go, listen, it's a crate, the door's shut, be okay with it. And you do this a lot in the day, which will then be able to crate train the dog overnight. And then you could even have the crate in your bedroom, on the landing, down the bottom of the stairs, and then in the kitchen, and advance it that way. Okay. But be soft with the crate. Make sure that the crate is they're getting used to it. And then you do the same thing. You get up, you walk away, you come back, you go into the kitchen, make a cup of coffee, and just get the dog bored of watching you move around while it's in the crate. It's something we've done with Alison, the client I messaged from Wallasey, where I've been hired in for like a 2-week program to just work on separation issues, separation anxiety with that dog. So the crate is a really, really big one. And there comes a point as well where you'll get some dogs where, and we've had to do this with that dog, where he just wouldn't settle in the crate. So when he started screaming and screaming and screaming, there actually comes a point where I will be a little bit aversive with it, and I'll just whack the crate and go, no, just give it a tap, and then I ignore them straight away. So there is some times where you need to use an interrupter with it, and I'm just being completely transparent in my methodology, because I never go, do it this way, do it that way, which so many behaviorists and trainers out there are doing this, where they go, do this, this, and this, and this, but I don't tell you or actually give the crate a crack if they really, really won't settle. For me, if that dog is absolutely off its box and crazy and screaming and all that, there's too many bad chemicals going on in that dog, and that dog needs interrupting and stopping from doing that behavior, because it's not good that that dog lives its life like that. Okay. So they're the first two, is exercise and leadership, first two. Third one is teaching the dog to be able to emotionally regulate. That's what you're doing. You're teaching the mind to emotionally regulate, and you're doing it by sitting with them. You're doing it with them. Okay. You're getting them. It's like this. You go on Google and they'll go, leave the dog for 5 minutes, and then next week leave it for 10 minutes, and then leave it for 15 minutes. Just leave the house, mate. Don't know where that accent come from, but it did. And that you're doing that with the dog, and the dog's just going, I don't care. Yeah, I just still stressed. It was 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes of stress. That doesn't fix separation anxiety. It can maybe help a dog that hasn't got it yet, but it doesn't fix it. It never will. The dog has to be okay with you just sitting next to it. It just has to chill. And it has to be okay if you're going 2 foot away from it and coming back. It has to be okay with this, right? It does. On a back tie. But we are going to get to another part of it, which is where you actually teach them a target, and where you teach them actually detachment. Okay. Number 4 is desensitization of triggers. Big one. Okay. So you can do all of these things, but the dog still gets triggered by you picking up your keys, putting your shoes on, putting a coat on, etc. And like I said before, some dogs with separation issues are just from this. Okay, they can just be triggered by this, and this makes them, mum's going out, I'm super stressed, I'm super stressed, I'm super stressed, and they feel bad, right? So what does that mean? It means when we're desensitizing triggers, we're going to be picking keys up, we're going to be putting our shoes on, and we're going to do them all individually. Okay. So what I'll do is one day I'll just make the keys mean nothing, just picking them up, putting them down, putting them on the hook, taking them off, putting them on the hook. So in the end, I'll go, them keys don't mean you leave anymore. Them keys just mean nothing. I've now become neutral to that, and that's now a desensitized white noise to me. It doesn't matter anymore. You do each one individually. And I did this with my Jack Russells, where I did it for something different. I did it because they got so high driven and excited to go out for a walk. They'd scream my flat down. I lived in a flat. They'd scream that much that it was deafening me. And the neighbors were going, "What are you murdering your dogs?" They were like, "We're going for a walk." And I actually made them do that by getting them excited, because I was a bit of a novice dog owner and didn't know what I was doing. Right. So I had to fix it. So what I'd do is I'd just get my shoes on, just go and sit and have a cup of tea. I get my shoes, I get my coat on the next day and just go and do different things with my coat on. Wear my coat around the house, turn the heating off, do what I need to do. Moving my keys, the hat, whatever the things are, getting the poo bags. And then you do a thing which is called chunking, where you chunk and behavior chain all of these things together, because you can do them all individually. And then when you do them together, the dog goes, shoes, coat, no, now you're going out. So I did it in the end of my Jacks, where I do the whole routine, walk to the front door and just stand at the front door, drop the leads at the front door. They're still on the leads and on all of the equipment. And I just go back up, sit upstairs and watch the television. And in the end, I had to drag the dogs out the front door, because you're like, we don't believe you're actually going to take us out here. You've desensitized us so much that we don't even think we're going to go out, right? And that's what you've got to do with the separation part, is desensitize the absolute shit out of it. Okay. So the dogs just go, I don't care what you do in these sequences. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Okay. Another part of it. Next part, we're not going to deep dive into that too much because time is moving on. I want a little bit of Q&A. So teaching detachment and independence. And this one is really, really, really important. Okay. So You may have seen, if you watch any of my videos or you've seen other trainers, they use what you call a raised bed to do placement work, where it's a target. Okay. It's known in the training world as what you call a target boundary, meaning that it's a target that you go to and it's a boundary that you can't come off.
It's not like it's like it is like a raised bed, but it's not their actual bed, is it? It's a
Mm.
separate target.
Side note, if they go on that bed, because you're going to teach them to go on it until the release, if they go on that bed without being told place to go onto the bed, the raised bed, they don't have to be released or nothing. They're just choosing that to bed. And if they ever do that, guys, you've done a good job, because there's a saying in the training world that's probably one of the greatest sayings in the training world, and that is, to make a dog do something, they have to like doing it first. Okay. If William was to have to be sent to his room, after we never send him to his room, but let's say he did, and his room was just a blank canvas that he just didn't like being in, it was an empty room, compared to it being a gaming room with a laptop and, a gaming laptop and a PC and a PlayStation 5 and all that, I can send him to that room very easy and make him stay in there because he's got so much love for that room. And that's what you have to do with all your exercises. The back time is going to be different because you're just teaching the dog to emotionally regulate. It's not a training exercise as such. Okay. It's just emotional regulation. But with the likes of placement, you do loads of food work, put loads of food on it, make them love doing it. And once you know that they're jumping on there, and every time you walk into the room, like our Pomeranian that we used to have, he would just, every time he seen a place bed, he'd just go and get on it because he knew he got food for doing it. When you've got that behavior going, that's when you can start using little bits of pressure to actually keep them on there, and a little bit of lead work, etc. Okay, but that is something that we definitely be diving into a lot more if you want to do the 4 week course of us. The thing is, this is an hour, and I'm jumping on it all, and I'm making sure, because I hate it when people sign up for stuff like this and like, oh, it's free. Well, it can't be free. Can't be free. There must be some type of a catch. There's not really. I'm going to give you the whole blueprint right now. But if you want added support and you want to, do me to go more in depth so we can actually nail this and you get fully supported for a whole month, then there's going to be the option to do that. But anyway, so when we're teaching placement, what we're trying to teach is trying to teach them to go to a target. And when we teach them to go to that target, we want them to, again, love doing it first so we can make them do it. And then you maybe start using the back tie while they're on there so they can't actually follow you out the room. And the purpose of this is that you're going to send them to it and you're going to start practicing moving away from them. Alison, who's my current client who's doing this, went from, because she looked at me and went, "You're not going to get my dog to stay on the place bed." But she, on her own, has put so much work in, and she can put the dog on place now with no lead, no back tie, no nothing. And she can walk all around the house, go upstairs, go out, do the bends, come back, and he hasn't left place. Now, that for me is teaching this mind in the dog how to be okay being separate. Okay. What's important about that is I want that exercise to eventually be done where the dog hasn't got a lead on and it's not back tied. Why? Because I want the dog to be able to come and find you if it needs to, but it's making the conscious decision not to come and find you. So it's then on its own accord feeling that it can be on its own and it can be okay with you moving away, if that makes sense. Okay. So you teach a target, but I will, when I get to not back time them, I will start using a blocker for doorways. So if there's a doorway that the dog will come to, I don't let them go past that doorway. I'll come back in and I'll tell them to go back to the bed. And I'll keep rinsing, repeating this all the time until the dog knows to stay in place and I can move all around the room. And then I can start moving out the house. Okay. Now, something that's super important about this is people go, "What's the end goal for that?" And I'll go, "Well, you want to be able to leave the house and the dog's okay being there in that room." And they'll go, "Well, I go out the house for 4 hours because my dog got to stay in that place for 4 hours." They haven't. And this is one of the very, very key concepts to it. They can come off place and go anywhere, but they can't just come to the door and try and follow you. So that's what you're building. You're building the behavior there. Do you know what? That's your target. But I'm going to make you stay on there. But if I leave and I go out and I'm watching you on a camera and you come off it and go and get on the couch, that's okay. That's allowed. It's just a fact of them wanting to come and try and find you and whimpering and whining. I work at it until they're not doing that anymore. Okay. Which is number 6, I think, something like that. We're on to 6. Okay. Okay, so we're coming towards the end. We might run a little bit over because I'm going to try and figure out how to do some question and answers. So they're the core principles, really. Exercise, leadership, okay? Exercise the dog, leadership, desensitization of triggers, making sure that they're learning to do self-soothing exercises like crate work and back tying, and then getting them comfortable with that. And then the final one is what was the final one? What was the final one? Oh, detachment exercises. Yeah, I didn't have to say it. I'm in people's homes talking this spiel all the time. So Kim was like, "You've got notes?" I was like, "I have." I said, "But I don't really need them." But it's a framework, isn't it? So detachment exercises, which is super important. Teaching them obedience, where you get them to go into a sit and you walk away from them. And then this is also super important. You don't release them all the way across the field to you. You actually walk all the way back and just go, okay, and release them out of it. And something that's important when you're doing exercises like that of a dog that's got separation issues is I feed them for being in position. I never feed them for coming out of position. So I'll make it beneficial for them to stay in positions. Okay. I bring all the food to them. And then when I'm finished with it, I'll come back to them and go, pick the lead up maybe if they've got a lead on them still. Okay. And then just walk off with them. And I don't make a fuss of them or anything. I just go, all the goodness comes, not excitement, the goodness. Food produces dopamine. That's the happy hormone that's happening when they get food. Same with me eating Maltesers watching Netflix. You get dopamine while you're feeding the dog. They get dopamine, and dopamine is a relaxing hormone for them. Okay, so you want that. Never release them and throw a ball for them. It's going to defeat the object. Okay. In some of these cases, we have to cover this because it is relevant. We would be using medication, which is something you'd have to go and see your vet over, which would be something we'd recommend that we feel the dog.
This is like if dogs are
severe. This is if dogs are severe. So so just go back up to that one a minute. Just need to go back to my notes there. So when you would medicate, so you'd medicate when the dog was constantly barking, whining, or howling the whole time, trying to escape, scratching doors, breaking crates, etc., but damaging themselves as well. Lots of destructive behavior, lots of drooling, panting, pacing. When you're getting a big combination of all these behaviors and it's pretty severe, that's the point where you'd be looking at medication. And for me, I think it should be a bridge. We fix dogs with this issue and quite severe without medication, but I just think it's a really incredible bridge to get you where you need to be, just so you're actually working with a better baseline with the dog. Okay. Long-term medication that you'd be using is like fluoxetine and what's it, the other one? Clomidorine, is it, or whatever?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't say that one. And then the short-term ones, which is the ones that we would recommend, is the likes of gabapentin, trazodone, and stuff like that. I'm not into medicating dogs. I'm not massively into it at all. But I do think it's something that's pretty useful when the dog is severe. Okay. It's something that you might want to look at. Okay. So
there's a couple of questions asked.
If you've got any questions, guys, you can just jump on questions
on the chat.
On the chat. Yeah, I think we're going to do it that way because people have already started doing that.
So what do you think the change was with Rosie? As you said previously, she had chewed 3 couches, but this time when given more space, she didn't chew the couch. Now, it's a really important question as well, because when she chewed the 3 couches, we were in our previous home. So my mum and my dad were living together. My dad was quite poorly, so he was home all the time. My dad died, and then that's when the separation come in, because she was never obviously left on her own at all. It's like the whole COVID situation. So when he died, that's when my mum was having to go out and go to work and do normal life stuff. This is when it started coming up. So yeah, this is where she chewed the couches.
So it would have been a border of both. It would have been isolation distress at first, but then containment phobia.
So then when we moved to Pensby,
so
we moved to Pensby then, and that's when we contained it into the kitchen, because she'd ate 3 couches. My mum's like, I'm not buying a new couch for her to destroy it, so we're going to put her in the kitchen. And then we contained her in the kitchen. The difference was, because my mum had to go back to her normal life and didn't have the time that she had before when my dad was there, Rosie wasn't getting fulfilled at all. Yeah. So she was getting probably a block walk once a day, and she's a high drive lurcher. Yeah. So the first thing you did when you came in was, right, come on, get shoes on, going for a walk. Yeah. And you took her to Roydon and you took her off lead, and my mum was like, oh my gosh, you're going to come back.
She did eventually.
She did, yeah. So I think that's it was a combination of both, but the fulfillment definitely made a massive difference.
Yeah, yeah, I used to just take him to, and I don't advise anybody to do this. Please don't do this. Don't do what I do, please. Don't do, just do what I say. Don't do what I do. I'd take care and Biscuit, who was a Lakeland Terrier, it's a Royden Park, let them off lead. And I was like, they'll come back because I knew they would. They had loads of pack drive. Dogs live in three drives. They live in defense drive, pack drive, and prey drive. And they were in prey drive, prey drive, prey drive the whole time. Biscuit would go and find the big muddy puddle, cover herself in mud. So she was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film Predator. She'd be completely covered. So she was, and what she's doing, she's covering her scent so she can catch things, and she would catch things. She'd come back with rabbits and all sorts. But she was nuts. I just let them go and I'd go, they'll be back. I'd go do a big walk around Royden Park, come and sit on the bench and wait for them to come to me. Literally would do that, honest to God. They were nuts, but they got the fulfillment. We got that box ticked. Now they come back all the time. So we got recall in the end. Yeah, minus. Okay. So yeah, the difference was it was containment phobia, and we opened the doors up to answer your question there. Where have we got now? Got another one. Excuse me.
My rescue is eaten through a door, and the architrave.
Architrave. So
in the kitchen.
Although as my two other dogs with not on their own. The door is now open with a tall gate. How could we leave her to roam the kitchen and lounge? She'd probably eat through the lounge door. So let me just get this right. So she's with two other dogs. It's saying, although my two other dogs, so not on her own. Okay. This could be a case of a containment phobia. It's pointing towards that, to be fair, containment phobia. So you may have it where she needs a bit more space, but that's something that we could potentially, we want to try and get the Zoom where people can speak on Zoom. So if anyone joins the course, the 4-week course that we're going to do from next week, I would actually deep dive this a little bit more. What we're going to also do is we're going to open up a Facebook group for the people who want to jump on the course, and we're going to open up a WhatsApp group, and that's going to be a support for everybody to jump in there, give me loads of information, and I'll be able to answer the questions.
Okay, there's an add-on to that. Also, she does settle eventually, doesn't bark or howl, but does paw the crate and does jump up at the work surfaces, but then settles again.
Yeah, maybe try outside of eating the architrave and stuff, so that's not very good. That might just be a case if it's going to get better as time goes on with something like that. So maybe be a bit patient. Next question. Thank you, Evan, today. Tonight, I have a jump off. Okay, yeah, so somebody's just had to go off. Okay.
I've had my rescue Staffy cross. I think it's moved with a Jack Russell on shore. She will scream the entire time she's left alone. She also has a collapsed trachea, which worries me. She is also reactive, they're not aggressive, and she guards the house like the beast. How best to train both when normal walks, etc., are a nightmare at the moment. Sorry for the long message.
Yeah, sometimes with stuff like that, you have to get like an enclosed field or something. So you've got the ability to give the dog the fulfillment that it needs. And yeah, as we've said within all the steps, just get all them steps in and practice them. I found previously, like when we give this strategy to people and they stick to it and they put the work in with each step, it works absolute wonders. In case anyone's wondering, by the way, that tank between us is a comedian. So I think it's just
also obviously with the Staffy cross, especially if she's crossed with a Jack Russell, that is a very like high drive dog in the sense of it loves affection. Like you just can't get enough of them.
Yeah, teaching a lot of detachments.
So a lot of self-soothing will massively help with that, because I'm assuming if she's anything like our Staffy, like a stroke is like crap.
Yeah, it was. Lottie stroking it was like crack to her.
So yeah, definitely self-soothing is the first place to start with that.
My dog chews her feet when we've gone out. She'll bark really loudly to the point where the neighbours can hear her. But when she's quiet, she chews her feet. Vets haven't found anything wrong with her feet either. Yeah, so chewing the paws is a stress signal. When she's out, she'll really bark really loudly. Yeah, I mean, with that one, I would do all of this if you're trying to fix it with your dog, but with some exercises, it's going to work better. So I'd go on the fleece blanket where I was doing loads of massage techniques with the fleece blanket and try and generate that state of mind that's going on through association, and then start leaving the fleece blanket and then start doing it in little increments where you've got the fleece blanket with them
Another thing, obviously, for this dog that is quite anxious, hence why it's chewing itself, is would be like a Kong with like some like filler in it so that it's licking that and it's
Yeah.
using that as a comforter and to soothe it to help obviously with the chewing of her feet as well.
Classical music is also scientifically proven to be 30% better than any other music. Yeah. So if you leave classical music on for your dog when you leave them, that's another part of the strategy that we use. And quite loud if you need it to. Okay, so we're going to probably, if you guys are okay and you want to hang about, we're probably just going to go 15 minutes over with some of these questions because we're going to have to try and quick fire them as quick best we
I have a
can.
16-week-old Bichon Frise who has never like been left alone since we brought her home. We have tried lots of strategies that haven't worked, and she stress poos whenever left. This morning, I had no way to stay with her, so she came in the car, which she doesn't like, to take the kids to school. And as soon as they got out of the car, she got extremely stressed, and within a minute, she had pooed in the car. She also shakes for quite a while after being left too. She can be happy just being bored, as you have said, but this seems to make no difference when it comes to her being alone. Do you have any advice to help stop her pooing when left?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like it is separation anxiety, like it's connected, especially when that's one of the signs for me is when you leave them in the car and they do the same thing to the car. It's the fact that you're moving away and then supports line of sight separation anxiety. So for me, a lot of especially the breed that we're talking about there too, I would be doing a lot of separation work, a lot of detachment work, where you're just teaching the dog to go onto a place and just grilling the hell out of that. With some of these exercises, some of you will have to try and do one of them more. Like desensitization triggers for might be like something that is really triggering for your dog, so you have to do loads of that and put all your time into that. And then like because some of you guys now may just say, well, my dog can just sit under a park bench, or we go to a cafe. They're very good at that. Self-soothing is not an issue for them. So you're going to be focusing on some of the other exercises more.
And like in this case, it would be a placement exercise where
Yeah,
you're doing
doing
like line
placements.
place, so
Yeah,
just going around the corner and coming back and
yeah. Sometimes you find as well that you just have to be you have to be doing you have to use a little bit of you have to be quite firm with the dog sometimes. That's what I've found that's been the breakthrough with certain dogs, is that you just won't. We did this with Bonnie and with Tracy and Colin, where she was so obsessively line of sight separation anxiety to Colin. She's just like, every time you did an exercise, as soon as you break her from going on place bed, she'd try and get back at Colin. And I just corrected her in the end. And I was just like, knock that off right now. That is not wanted. Stop that. You can go back to Colin, but you're not dragging and choking yourself to get to him. It's not wanted to. Sometimes when you're working on them detachment issues, you've literally got to go, I'm not here to be messed about. I've got to let you know that you can't just come after me and follow me around. I've got to show some authority. And I'm not talking beat your dog, for a correction or something that is strong enough for the dog to just go, okay, I understand what you're saying.
that's where the leadership comes in, because for some dogs, they feel like they have to follow you around, because if they don't follow you around, you might get hit by a car and die. Like they think that they are like they must protect you in all senses of life. So,
but that's going to make them get hit by a car, because we were saying this to Tracy and Colin last week, that dog's so erratic that it's going to get hit by a car, because it's going to all reasons going out the window. And that's where you've got to be sometimes. No, you've got to understand that we're going to have to be detached. But again, I'm going to reiterate it. You build loads of love for it first. We were doing it with Bonnie. We were putting loads of food on the place bed and making her love it first. We don't just go straight in and go, correction, don't follow me. They have to love the exercise, but there come a point in it where I was like, no, you need to actually know you can't do this right now. Okay. Again, full transparency, full disclosure, and everything that I do, and I've always been that way, and will never be any difference. I will always say the dog actually needs a correction. We need to actually.
My border terrier is very reactive to other dogs, so I can't let her off lead. She also has her brother with her, so she starts barking. That's why I told you they will walk separately. Yeah, totally understand that.
Yeah, and something that I was just gonna side note for that is you just have to put the effort in. I'm so sorry, and going to get an enclosed field or getting out early in the morning. I
Yeah,
did
just
this
try
did
and
this with
avoid,
Bruce.
yeah.
Bruce was highly reactive as a dog, my American bulldog. It was summer in the house, somehow. Highly reactive American bulldog. And I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black, listening to podcasts about horror movies. I don't know why I did that. At one morning, I'm walking in the pitch black through the Lady Hume estate going, why am I listening to this podcast? What am I doing right now?
Mm.
Pitch black, head torches, big torches, roaming around with Bruce and just putting that work in. And do you know what? To be fair, it was amazing. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then getting home and have all the dogs sorted and no one's out of bed. It was absolutely amazing. It really was.
But also like an enclosed field, and you can do things on the enclosed field, like you can throw food on the floor, get them to use their nose and sniff it. If
Yeah.
there's two of you, you could get one of them to hide behind a tree, and so that they're like actively looking, or like there's stuff you can do on an enclosed field, and obviously keep walking, try not to stand
Enclosed
still.
forest, the best. There's one up at Church
There's one in
Farm.
Church Farm and
And we've got
Thurston.
one in Neston that's got two big, massive trees that are hundreds of years old. And I just think they are nice. There's lots of smells. Enclosed fields are full of other dog smells. So you get a lot off the field
Yeah,
itself.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Okay, what are we on to now? Going to take questions for another maybe 8 minutes. Secure field. All I can do with her at the moment, unfortunately. Oh, yes. Is,
She
isn't
is
he?
needy, and you
Yeah.
should be needy.
Yeah, they are
It's a
needy.
Staffy cross.
Staffies are needy.
My rescue cockapoo gets in a panic when he shut her in the kitchen behind the stairgate. Today I let her have the run of the house with many doors shut, and she seemed more relaxed when I checked in on the camera for her barking. But we can't get her to settle in a crate at night without lots of barking and whining. I have only had her for 3 months. We're her fourth home,
Right.
and she's already 7 years old.
Okay, yeah. So well done, obviously, for rescuing this dog. That's amazing. But yeah, what I would do is if the crate's a problem overnight, start doing the crate stuff in the day and start getting her comfortable with you being right next to her, etc., and moving away and start building it that way. Also, like I said before, again, full disclosure, sometimes this is what happened with Alison is with her puppy, she couldn't get a night's sleep. So in the end, she just went, well, you shut up and whacked the crate on the top. And she said, I'd get a full night's sleep all the time now. It can't be dismissed that. It can't. It's an aversive way of doing it. And I try to do everything as non-aversive as possible when you're talking about this as a problem. But it just sometimes the dog needs to be a little tap to just go knock it off. So the dog goes, okay. And then it just goes, okay, what other options have I got? Because remember, if the dog barks and whines and it gets let out in the morning or it gets let out whilst it's barking and whining or within about 5 minute period of it barking and whining, it can start to pair the dots that my barking and whining got me to come out the crate. Even just go and knock it off or shut up or giving some type of a verbal for the dog is an activation that you might be walking to the crate and letting them out. When you give the little tap on the crate, I would be doing it where I just go, no, tap it and then walk away. So I'm saying to the dog, that didn't get you out. That actually got an aversive method. That's what happened. That's what the tap on the crate was. But if you're in the house of your dog and it's in the crate of a night and you're trying to communicate, going, it's all right, don't worry, we're still here, we're still in bed, we're just still here. It's the dog is then what you call activated to think that you're going to come and maybe let them out the crate, etc. Okay.
I have a cockapoo attached to me, only also at home, but I have no life at the moment. I need a
Oh,
dog sitter all the time. We're only up to 15 minutes at the moment. When self-soothing outside, sitting in a cafe, she wants me to stroke her all the time. Or when we go to a stranger's for touch, is this a good or a bad thing? Yeah, that you need to start ignoring her.
yeah, she needs to learn that you're not engaging her at all. Which one was I who asked that question? Yeah, so
Cheryl.
Cheryl, she needs to learn that touch isn't going to happen. That's the first part. I've gone to homes recently where I've been teaching them about self-soothing, etc., and they're like, "We just can't do it. We've tried it." And then I've noticed that they're doing this thing, and the dog won't soothe. I've noticed they're doing this thing that every time the dog whines, they look at it. They just look down at the dog every time it whines. That is a signal that you're potentially going to touch it. You know when you walk around a corner and a collie just starts lunging at you as soon as you look it in the eyes, it's because it was the first signal. The first signal was when this collie was a puppy, and this collie was like, "I don't want to be touched. I want to be on a farm. Actually, I'd like to be on a farm. Rounding sheep up and doing farm things and jumping on the back of the tractor and being driven around. I didn't really want to be in your house. That's my life. But we get these collies because you've got blue eyes and they look cute. We take him out for a walk, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, look at Collie! It's gorgeous, and it's a puppy." We had collies growing up, and they come over and they come around the corner and they look at the dog, signal one. They walk towards the dog, signal two. Can I say hello? Signal three. Okay. Signal four, his hand comes out. Okay. Hand comes out. Before you've even answered them, the hand's on the dog's head. Can I say hello? Oh, you don't want me to? Well, I've done it now. I'm sorry. So they're touching the dog, and that's why a dog can become reactive to people. You walk around the corner, look at the dog, and the dog goes, signal one, rah! Don't even do it. It's signal one. I'm stopping you before you start. You know the old method of get the dog before it kicks off. When it starts loading into a behavior, stop it there and then. Distract them, correct them, do whatever your methodology is. The dogs do that themselves. The dogs get to a point where they'll go, there's a point here where you're going to start coming over to me, and someone will just go, yeah, you're fine, you're fine. But if that hand comes out of that pocket, I'm going to bite you. And then you take your hand out the pocket, and the dog that looked okay, Colin, you did this, and I've been told off hundreds of times, right? He did it. Touched the dog too soon, and then he just bite you and savage your hand, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? It was reading the signals. Okay, so when the dog's self-soothing and it goes, and you go like this and look down at it, the dog goes, that's a signal that you're going to take this lead off me and we're going to have cuddles. Okay, so cold turkey. Okay,
Our Labrador
we
cross
could unmute them when
goes
it's
goes in his crate, okay, but is waking up at 3 a.m. every morning,
it's one
barking
of
and
my
crying
old
until
clients.
someone goes to him.
I'll have a cross Samantha Head. She's one of our old clients and is great, okay, but she's one of the Fab Four of our reactivity course, Samantha Head. Our Labrador cross goes in his crate, okay, but he's waking at 3 a.m. every morning. How old is he to start? If he's really young, there may have to be a toilet routine. Go on until someone goes to him. Yeah, generally I'd ignore that, I would. I'd cold turkey that. I'd just go, no one's coming to you. You have to kind of ride it out. And sometimes they have an accident or something, but sometimes you have to ride that out because you have to learn it's not happening.
That's just
Okay,
a thank you, Luke. Come on.
okay.
Is it okay to have the dog on the sofa? She settles in her crate of a night, no problem, and sleeps through the night. But she rarely settles anywhere during the day, evening, other than the sofa. I don't mind it, but I wonder if it's a bad habit.
So go back up. What's her name? Just I'm on to you.
Millie.
Okay, Millie. So no, it's absolutely fine. If it works for the dog to be on the sofa, let it be on the sofa. It's not one of my little methods when it comes to a dog being on the sofa is if I'm out the house and I'm okay with them being on the sofa, they can be on the sofa. However, when I'm sitting chilling overnight, if they want to come on the sofa with me, they've got to be waiting until they've been invited. I want them to respect my space and boundaries. That's the only thing that I'd add into there. Okay.
So I think that's everything. So obviously, we are going to be doing a course on the back end of this. It will start next Thursday. It's £33 for the full 4 weeks.
Like we said, it's probably going to be about 150 quid in the future.
Yeah, but it's £33 for 4 weeks. You're going to have a weekly live with Andrew. Every day there'll be daily check-ins. There'll be, opportunities for you to put videos in and say how you're getting on today, and there will be that support from both of us.
And you don't have to be present for it either because it will be recorded and then it'll be added to somewhere where it'll be in the Facebook group.
Yeah. So then every week we will check in, see how you're getting on, and it's basically just a full-on, more in-depth of what we've gone through tonight.
We're basically going to break all them foundation pointers. We're going to break them down to each week. So each week we'll have one where we'll go in depth on it and you guys can practice. And then what we'll do is on the final week, when you get your final sort of instructions, we'll be doing a little bit of a catch up on Facebook or on WhatsApp just to see how you've got on with the final instructions, where you're at, and you'll be supported there. I'm a sucker for wanting to help dogs. I've had Paws of Nature for 11 years and it's been my baby, and I've loved supporting people with all different behavior problems for a very long time. And my passion never stops. If a dog does something super cool, or even just goes on to placement for the first time, or we get the results what we've been getting with Alison and we start to see things blossom with the dog, I get super excited. Like I'm still a 14-year-old lad who's just got his first dog. So I'm super passionate about like helping people.
And also the whole point of this whole free workshop is that I think everything has to be for me, for you, for us, and it's a collective. And we're all here together and we're all dealing with the same issues. And I think it's a blessing really that we can come here and even just give you this. So thank you so much to everyone for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
What I'll do on the back end of this is everybody who I've sent the link over to, I will send them the details of the new course. Obviously, if you're interested, if you're not interested, but that's absolutely fine. And I really hope you've all got some stuff from today. So
yeah, and then if you go into that, like we say, if you pay for that course that we've got, you'll go into a WhatsApp group and a Facebook group, and you'll just have constant support. So it won't just be the 1 hour every week. You'll be supported within the week where you go, I've tried self-soothing and this has happened, and I'm like, are you looking at your dog? And you must be looking at your dog. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Obviously, we'll go now and find out what our children are doing down the bottom. But thank you so much for coming, and it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye. So how do we stop it?